For first-time developers, there are a couple of golden rules. Choose your property very carefully and listen to the experts. The developers of this three-storey shop didn't do either.
When we had a surveyor's report when we first put in for buying it, he said to us he thought it was roughly 50,000.
Yeah, he told us not to touch it.
He said it was too much work for a first-time investment, and we took no notice.
How much your development will cost and how much money you happen to have might be two very different things. It may sound dull, but working out a realistic budget is the first step to making your development pay. Amateur property developing is so commonplace now, it's not surprising to learn that total newcomers are about to renovate a semi-derelict property. But when the plan is to turn a worn-out TV shop on a main road in a built-up neighbourhood into a family home, it would seem a very tough challenge. It certainly wouldn't be an obvious choice for a first development. Mark Clifford and Tracy Newcombe are Telebox's proud new owners. Mark is 27, and after playing semi-professional football for the last 10 years, he's now looking to the future.
Football, it's been my career basically since I left school. Now I'm just getting to a point, I'm getting a bit older and I want to start finding a career of some description, and maybe property's the one.
Tracy is 36, and after years working as a civil servant, she wants to branch out.
We both spend a lot of time at home saying we can do this, we can do that, I'll do it better, and we decided to put our money where our mouth is.
Anyone who has looked for a place to renovate knows there is a real shortage of suitable properties around. A bit of lateral thinking can pay off though, and converting a shop can be a good option. But this is not an easy development, and you have to have enough cash to do it well.
This is the TV shop.
Great.
Yeah.
It's now going to be our home. Somebody's
not ours. This is it.
Just look in bad condition, this part of it.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this
is the
good
best
condition.
bit.
This is the best room of the whole lot, yeah.
So how much did you pay for the building?
58,500.
Right. And how much do you plan on spending doing it up?
About 15,000, yeah.
And what do you think you're going to sell it for?
110.
110. So that's over a £35,000 profit.
Yeah.
That's a great profit if you can pull it off. That would be an incredible 50% return on their investment. But with the budget so low and the profit margin so high, I can't help thinking that one may go up and the other will come down. So Mark and Tracy bought the property for £58,500. They plan to spend £15,000 on the renovation. If they can sell the property for £110,000, they expect to make a profit of £37,500. But I'm interested to see what Mark and Tracy are planning to achieve with their £15,000 budget. They weren't kidding when they said that the shop was the best part of the property. Gosh, this needs
lots of work.
A lot of work, doesn't it?
There's the one thing that you can say is that at least it's like a blank canvas. There's not a lot.
That it is.
Very blank, yeah.
Yes, very blank. Blank canvases like these need serious money. In fact, it's one of the biggest jobs I've seen a first-timer tackle in ages. Mark and Tracy will have to design a new residential facade, replace all the windows, replumb, rewire and refurbish the entire property. Have you actually started some of the work already?
I think the previous person did that.
Yeah, they've started a lot of things and not finished. All over it looks like works have been done, but nothing's finished.
They've part done the electrics, so if you look downstairs you can tell they've half but not finished it. They've put little walls up and not finished it. And
so this was obviously a kind of restoration project that someone thought about doing.
Yeah. They probably pulled out because it was too much hard work.
Gosh. At this stage, I'd be a little concerned. If you take on a renovation that someone else has given up on, you really should ask yourself why they might have pulled out. The reasons may be perfectly legitimate, but then again, they might know something about the property that you don't. This property is so narrow and steep that it will be difficult to design a layout that will sell. On the top floor, half the loft has been converted into a bedroom. On the floor below, there are another 2 good-sized bedrooms. And on the ground floor there's the shop itself and one other good-sized room with a small rear extension. But there's no bathroom or kitchen, and the shop is completely cut off from the rest of the house. Mark and Tracy plan to change all that. So this is going to be what room?
Dining room.
Kitchen diner.
Kitchen dining.
So you have a kitchen diner here and then a door through
there for the lounge.
Yeah.
into there.
Yeah.
The other side of this wall is the shop that we've just been in.
That's where the shop is, through there.
Mark and Tracy are planning to replace the existing shop front with a traditional terrace facade and knock a doorway through between the shop and the rest of the house. They will then turn the old shop into a lounge and create an L-shaped kitchen living area at the back of the property. Who are you planning on marketing this to?
Professional couple with a couple of children.
Yeah, young professionals.
Because this is a very popular area for buying and renting out to students. So in a perfect world, you'd appeal to both markets.
Yeah.
And obviously the more bedrooms you have, the better it is in terms of student let. Mark and Tracy are confused about their market. It's unlikely that this house will ever appeal to a family because of the incredibly steep stairs. However, with a big university on their doorstep, this house could appeal to investors who want a student buy-to-let. But Mark and Tracy must get their layout right and turn the property around by June at the latest so it's available to rent before the university year begins. My gut feeling would be to try and keep that front sitting room as a possible bedroom or possible sitting room for the buy-to-let market, student market, which means that this room here, you need to think about this room being left so that you could use it as the only living space, so you can fit a table and a sofa and the kitchen in it. It would be better if they put the kitchen in the extension at the back of the house so that the back room can double up as a dining room and sitting room. That way the front room could be an extra bedroom, which will make the property much more attractive to this buy-to-let investment market. I really think students are likely to be the only people willing to put up with stairs as steep as these. On the first floor there are 2 bedrooms but no bathroom. Mark and Tracy plan to divide the bedroom at the rear of the property in 2 and fit a bathroom in one half and a bedroom in the other.
So we want to take the chimney breast out, split the room in half or thereabouts, have a bathroom one side with a door, and then this side must be a single bedroom.
The only problem that I can see with this is that if the bedroom is this side and the bathroom's this side, you're going to have no window for the bedroom. Taking out the chimney breast and splitting the rear bedroom in 2 makes sense. They need to put a bathroom in somewhere, and putting one on the first floor is the logical choice. But it would make even more sense if they swapped the position of the bathroom so that the bedroom got the large window, and it wouldn't cost much to put in a small window for the bathroom.
So put the bathroom that side and put a little, little window in there.
Yeah. So then you'll end up with a small bedroom and a small bathroom. Though they're sacrificing a double bedroom, upstairs they're planning to create a new one in the loft space, which means the property will have 3 double bedrooms and 1 single. Gosh, it's a big loft space, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's why we thought, it's too big an opportunity to let go.
Yeah, no, that's great. Converting the loft is a good idea in theory, but there's a big problem: the money. Mark and Tracy's plans don't seem to bear much relation to their budget. Conversions like these are only worth doing if you can afford to do them properly. And with £15,000, I don't think Mark and Tracy can. They've allocated £8,800 for building work, £1,500 for labour, £1,800 for materials, £1,900 for the bathroom and kitchen, £1,000 for flooring and decoration, which comes to a grand total of £15,000 without their fees. A totally unrealistic figure, in my opinion. And to make matters worse, they haven't got any proper quotes for the work. I mean, I have to say, to me, there's a hell of a lot of work that you're planning on doing here for £15,000. Yeah. I mean, I personally, looking at this, would reckon it would cost at least 50.
That's scary.
I'm confident we can get within close to our budget.
Do you think?
Yeah.
To be fair though, when we had a surveyor's report when we first put in for buying it, he said to us he thought it was roughly 50,000.
Yeah, he told us not to touch it.
He said it was too much work for a first-time investment, and we took no notice.
Why did you take no notice out of interest?
Because that's just the kind of people we are.
We're crazy.
You're completely mad.
Yeah. Now you said it, I feel really scared.
Yeah.
Right. Well, at this stage, you've bought it. You've got to make the best of it. And I think you want to simplify the build and keep the cost down as much as possible, because I think that it's quite a dangerous project otherwise. Mark Clifford and his partner Tracy Newcombe have caught the property developing bug and are hoping to make a killing from this old TV shop in Sneinton in Nottingham. For just 15 grand, they hope to turn it into a desirable 4-bedroom family home. And they don't care what anyone thinks.
Well, my dad, I took him to have a look at it with me, and he got outside, had a look at it, had a look around, and he said, no way, don't go near it. He said, you're crazy. After that, I didn't take anybody else there because I thought they're going to talk me out of it if they get a chance.
When Mark and Tracy had the property surveyed, they were told they would need £50,000 to modernise it. And I think that's pretty close to the mark. They could lose a lot of money on this project, but if they get a realistic strategy together now, they could pull it off. But Mark and Tracy are just ploughing ahead with their original plans. Within 3 weeks, they've sorted out a builder and work has begun.
I think Mark had approached several builders, and some people were saying, oh, we can start, but we can't start for 2-3 months, and that was too far ahead for us. And then I'd sort of approached my friend's dad, which probably in some circumstances I wouldn't have done for obvious reasons. But I mean, I do know that his work's very good, and luckily he could start within like 3 weeks. We wouldn't have had that from anybody else, so it's going to need to be managed carefully, because what we don't want in the course is any falling out.
With such a tiny budget, this development will need to run like clockwork. Tracy, who works full-time, will look after the money. And in between football matches, Mark is going to be on site every day, project managing the development.
And I think we all agree the name printed is the name that matters, right or wrong.
I allowed him to have his name first. I'm having them retyped as we speak.
Project managing is a big job, and Mark will need to be on the ball. But to cut back on costs, he's also going to do the labouring. The trouble is, he has no idea what he's doing. So Paul the builder will have to train him on the job.
We're an inch-off line there, but I think we can get over that.
I think that's a perfect line, me.
Right?
Yeah.
A perfect line. OK.
It is a recipe for disaster, I must say, but we're all adults. And if there's criticism on either side, we have to take it on the chin and just get on with it.
Hazardous man at work.
It certainly is a recipe for disaster, because they both think they're the boss. On one hand, it's Mark's development and he's the project manager. But on the other, he's the only labourer, and Paul the builder needs to be able to tell him what to do.
Well, and then that's what he's here for. If he's doing the labouring, that's what it is a dog's body. So we tell him what to do and he does it, regardless if he's paying or not.
If Mark's in for a rough ride, it's not a patch on what Tracy's got to deal with. She's just paid the first instalment to the builders, and she's getting a reality check about her budget.
I mean, the budget, I would say, is a little out of control. We started off, initially, we were thinking, oh, maybe about 15,000, but I didn't realise how much the taking out chimney breasts would be, and didn't realise how much it would cost to take out a shop front and replace it. I didn't realise how much the loft conversion would be, and all those probably are double what I anticipated.
You should never buy a property until you know how much it will actually cost to develop. As a rule of thumb, the most basic of renovations costs around £75 a square foot, but always get reliable quotes before you decide to go ahead. Make a detailed schedule of works and then get a builder or architect to walk around the property with you and go through the list before you ask for a breakdown of costs. But this is only worthwhile if you take their advice on board and follow it, unlike Mark and Tracy.
A lot of the time they don't realise how much things do actually cost. So they think, oh, this will cost so much, but it doesn't. It probably costs double what they think. So I think some customers kid themselves, thinking it's going to just, that's it, right, we've got this, and it doesn't work out like that.
In an attempt to find some savings, Tracy calls in the architect to discuss her latest plans.
Velux windows bit, because initially proposed to put 2 in, then there was some dialogue about having 3.
The whole issue is that we've got to put in an escape window because it's being treated as a loft conversion.
Right.
So to satisfy building regs, you're going to need the escape and you're going to need natural light.
Yeah.
So we've got to have
Fair
those 2
enough,
windows.
Then. Yeah. What me and Mark discussed last night is our bottom line is we don't want to do anything that's unsafe, but we want to do whatever is the cheapest option.
Tracy is trying to get the escalating budget under some sort of control. But the massive problem is the £15,000 figure they started with was never going to work. I'm worried they may not be able to afford to finish this project. And to make matters worse, Mark and Tracy were in such a rush, they've started work before getting planning permission, which means they can't risk touching the loft or changing the shop front. And the builders are running out of other things to do.
We started bits and bobs, as you can see. We've done the door frames and started with the chimney breasts and that. That's the only things we can be getting on with really at the moment.
This is crazy. It's a risk to even start work that requires planning permission before you get it, as you could be made to undo it all. In this case, Mark and Tracy can't afford to take that risk. As it is, they've used up almost a quarter of their budget, and it hasn't even made a dent on this development. Now, it's over 6 weeks since I was last here, and has much happened?
It looks worse, but we've done lots.
Yeah, it's only been 3 weeks since the builders have been here.
Right.
So there's been 3 weeks worth of work, but things have moved along pretty swiftly.
And was the price that they came in at the price you expected? How is your budget now?
No, the builder's quote was more than we thought it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, it wasn't. We probably were working as people who didn't really know
Probably
what we were doing.
naive, thinking 15,000.
Top end, we should be in at 30. That's the worst case
Everything.
scenario.
That's
so.
solicitors' fees, the lot, everything's in that.
In a desperate attempt to keep their costs down, Mark and Tracy have started cutting back in areas where they should be adding value. You got the stud work up?
Yeah.
So you decided that you would divide this back bedroom into a bedroom and a bathroom, did you?
Yeah.
You were at one point planning on taking all the chimney breasts out.
Yeah.
Decided not to do that, have you?
The money was running away with us, so we decided to make a feature of it, which will give us a little bit more space for shelves. Or
Some shelving and some lighting in there. So.
Yeah.
Right. It does take up quite a lot of room in this in this very small bedroom. These rooms are small anyway, and not taking out the chimney breast is just going to make this house even harder to sell. The problem with this development is that Mark and Tracy are really struggling to make the improvements that this property desperately needs. And the higher up you go, the worse it gets. Gosh, they really are terribly, terribly narrow, the stairs, aren't they?
Yeah.
The builder's he says he's going to put some MDF on top of each step and widen each step by about half an inch.
A little bit bigger, yeah.
So you won't have to walk down
At least
like
you
a
got to
penguin.
get your foot on them a bit.
Yeah, that would make it easier.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be ideal. Even with the small improvements they're planning, these stairs rule out this property for the family market. Mark and Tracy need to be realistic and recognise the kind of buyers this property will actually attract. Getting their market wrong is a mistake they can't afford to make when they've taken on such a risky development in the first place. Nottingham is the 10th most popular university city in the UK. And Sneinton is close to the city centre and not too far from Trent Valley University, so it's popular with students and parents looking for a long-term investment and somewhere for their kids to live while they're in college.
You're probably right, it's going to be an investor. You know, we did say family originally, didn't we? But I always thought, you know, it possibly was going to be an investor.
We knew that
anyway.
area would also...
And looking at the market again, how it is going, you see Sneds, it's always like ideal for investor and this, that and the other, so yeah.
If that's the market that you're going to sell your house to, you have to have it finished and ready by June, because if you miss the June market, it's going to be another year before you're able to sell it to a buy-to-let investor again.
We understand that students need to be in and settled by September when they start their courses, so you're talking June, July.
I think at this stage, you should be able to get it finished by June. In terms of your budget, I think you're going to end up needing a lot more than you've allocated for this development. And if you think there's a chance you're going to have a cash flow problem in the future, you need to spend the money in the major areas, which is going to give you the best possible chance of releasing more equity out of the development to finish it.
Well, they're all important. their own little way, every bit of the house is important.
Point is if you do the major works first, you are in a position where you have a nearly finished property, which is considerably easier to take more borrowing on than one where there's major jobs not started.
Yeah.
4 weeks in, and although they're having real problems keeping to the budget, they've started to make some progress. They've got the go-ahead to convert the loft space, so they've started work on the new bedroom. While this is an important job, I think Mark and Tracy have got their priorities wrong. They should be concentrating on getting the bathroom and kitchen in as soon as possible, in case they need to raise more funds. But at this stage, any progress is a welcome relief.
We've got the partition in, we've got the stud walling in, we've started soundproofing, we've got the bathroom and bedroom partitioned off, we've got our steel in, so yeah, everything's going on pretty well.
I'm pleased with how much work's been done because I've not been for a couple of days, so there's a lot's happened. Seems to have been happening really quickly.
But it hasn't been easy. For 5 weeks now, Mark has been trying to do all the labouring on site, as well as project managing, training and playing competitive football. And the Nuneaton midfielder is beginning to wonder whether he's bitten off more than he can chew.
Spent the day working, doing bits and bobs, shifting rubble, and then I had to get in my car and drive straight over to Nuneaton and train. Get back, had a shower, had something to eat at the training, and then came home, got in my house at about 10:15, I think it was. I was absolutely shattered, and I thought, I've got quite a few of these days to come, but I've got 8 games coming up in a very short space of time. So, you know, it's going to be pretty hard work, and I'll have to get through it.
It may be the height of the football season, but this site is starting to look like it doesn't have a labourer, and the builders aren't happy.
When you look out the window, you just see all the amount of rubbish that's just out here. It's just amazing. I've never been on a job like it. None of our jobs have ever been as bad as this.
It's a lot of rubbish, and it just needed to be moved. When it needed to be moved, not when somebody felt like doing it.
I told him that we needed to get rid of that last week, and he said, oh no, wait till the windows are out and everything. This week he decides that when the windows are out and everything, there'll be too much rubbish here. So, you know, he's just moving the goalposts as and when it suits him. As it's a control thing for him, he just wants to do it when he says and not when somebody else says.
Wanted to do the labouring, he should be prepared to be here every day, which he's supposed to be, every day, and do what he's got to do. And that would have meant filling the skip.
I am pissed off about it, to be honest. I am pissed off, yeah. I just think he's just... he needs to realise that this is my property, he's working for me here, and not vice versa.
Trying to be the labourer and project manager on your first development is a difficult juggling act. But Mark never really sorted out who was running this project.
My snap!
When I took the job on initially, I did make it quite clear to both Tracy and Mark that I'm the boss. Yes, I'll take note of what they want, and if something wants to be changed or they want it, then fine. But if I take a main contract on, then I run the contract, and I run the contract as I see fit. If we come into conflict again, I'm just going to tell him to get his lads off site and, you know, bill me for what he's done, and I'll move on, because I just can't be bothered to work like this, to be honest. It's more hassle than it's worth.
But the rubbish isn't the only problem on this site. The development is running way behind schedule. They're nowhere near finishing, and there's only 4 weeks to go to their June deadline. And Mark is really struggling to keep on top of this site. The planning permission for the shopfront has finally come through, but there doesn't seem to be anyone around to do the work. So it's 2 weeks since I was last here, and there don't seem to be any builders on site. What's happened?
Well, one builder's left and started on something else.
He had his date to go and start his new job.
I didn't realise that he was moving on.
So a slight communication problem?
No, I knew exactly what was going on.
Oh, right.
I just didn't tell Trace. If I tell her some bits she don't want to know, she gets upset.
You really need to steam ahead and get it finished, don't you?
We need to go and speak to Paul, who's obviously the building company person, to say what's happening next.
We're going to go see him later on, and one way or the other, whether it's with him or with somebody else, we'll be cracking on.
It's clear that no one is in control of this site, but no one seems to be in control of the budget either. Replacing the shopfront with a residential facade is an expensive job, with hefty bills for both materials and labour. But they've spent most of their £15,000, so even if the builders agree to push on, Mark and Tracy aren't sure whether they can afford to pay them.
When we first set out, it's kind of like, probably me more, so I kind of came in, oh yeah, put a new kitchen in there, new bathroom in there, and do a bit of tidying up, and it's not, I mean, there's several aspects to this project that need a lot of work, and you couldn't do it yourself. I mean, just stuff like putting steels in and, you know, the loft conversion. I've had a clue.
We do need to sit down with Paul anyway again and have another...
Yeah, need to revise if there's some things that we can knock off, or because the budget's spiralling.
Trying to renegotiate a builder's quote down halfway through a project is highly optimistic. I think Mark and Tracy will need to find another £30,000 to finish off this development. But they've already remortgaged their home to buy the shop and remortgaged the shop to fund the renovation. Trying to raise more funds on this half-finished development with no kitchen and no bathroom is going to be difficult. 6 weeks after starting the project, they've run out of options.
Just have to shut down tools, and just, you know, we're going to have to reassess our situation.
We've done, you know, quite a lot of work upstairs, but there's still loads of work to do downstairs.
Everything downstairs needs doing. We've got so far, and yet we're still so far away. That's the frustrating thing.
Tracy Newcombe and Mark Clifford have remortgaged their home and bought this shop in Sneinton in Nottingham. They were sure they could develop the property for just £15,000, but it needed a massive renovation. The plan was to get it done in 3 months, in time for June, to target the student buy-to-let market. But it's almost May, and 6 weeks in, the money has run out. The builders have moved on to another job, and the work has come to a complete standstill.
We've learned a massive lesson, really, and that is that things cost 3 times more than what you think they're going to cost. Might have been a cruel lesson, but we've learnt it.
This is a very expensive lesson. Not only are Mark and Tracy £16,000 down, but every month that goes by is costing them more in mortgage repayments. In a year when interest rates are going up, that's a risky situation to be in, especially when you have no contingency fund. So to try to avoid throwing good money after bad, Mark and Tracy have come to a drastic decision. They're having the property valued for sale.
So not quite finished yet then? Is there any access to the shop front from here?
No, you need to go around the front itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
They bought the shop for £58,500. Just to cover their cost to date, they'd have to sell for £80,000.
The main areas on the valuation which have concerned me so far today have been the stairs leading down from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor, the fact that the heating is not plumbed in, neither is the water. We don't have a kitchen and we don't have access to the shop front, so with that in mind we've got to be, you know, pretty realistic about what we're going to ask for the property. And in my estimation, I think if you look at something in the region of £75,000, that's approximately what you should be able to get for it in its current state.
That's a £5,000 loss. A far cry from the £37,500 profit they'd hoped to make. If Mark and Tracy had scheduled their work more carefully, they could have spent their budget adding value to the property and put in a new kitchen and bathroom. If they had, they would have options. It's much easier to remortgage a property if it's habitable. If it was, then they could raise more money, or they might be able to sell up and even make a profit. As it is, they're caught between a rock and a hard place.
We started off with a budget of 15,000, and we've already spent 16,500. So.
Is that what we've spent already? Shit.
I think the options that we've got are to sell, which...
But that's not even an option as far as I'm concerned.
And anyway, it's just been valued, and at 70,000 it won't even break even, so... The second option would be to remortgage, but to remortgage we'd have to put the kitchen in, and that will cost us about 3,500, so we'd have to find money to do that to remortgage, so I don't see that's an option for us. Or, I mean, I can speak to my mum, see if she can lend us a bit of extra money.
It's not a little bit of extra money, is it? It's a lot of money.
It's now the middle of May, and 12 weeks after I first met Mark and Tracy, they've reached rock bottom.
Well, at the moment, it's probably looking at about 35,000.
35
That's
now.
probably, I've worked it out, and that's without hidden bits, because obviously the building work's probably only I don't know, third of the way through, if that.
So where do you think they'll find it?
Well, some of it we'll have to just save for a while, and then, you know, maybe a bit of it we might take a loan for. So,
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll be suspended for?
Worst case scenario, it could be towards the end of the year, which would be, you're talking 6 months. But at the moment, it's a bit up in the air because, you know, it's back down again to sitting down with Paul and breaking down some of the costs a bit more. So
You bought it for just under 60,000, and you're going to be spending 35,000 plus fees. So you're in at over 100,000. If you don't sell it for over £105,000, you're only going to break even. Compared to where you were,
very different.
it's a
yeah.
very different situation. Are you a bit disappointed with the way the figures have gone?
We bought this because we thought we were going to make big money.
If we've gone into it a bit naively, we wouldn't do it again.
Getting this property back on the market in 2 weeks to meet their June deadline is starting to look like a pipe dream. A development that was going to make Mark and Tracy £37,000 profit is now costing them dearly. So Mark finally decides to take things in hand.
I've had to make a sacrifice, and the sacrifice has mean I've had to sell my car. I think footballers are car snobs as well, you know, so when you're driving on a match day into a game, you know, you want to look good, feel good, hopefully play good, and it's just one of them things at the minute that I'm just going to have to maybe not look so good. So we need to do whatever we can do to finish this project.
Selling his car gets Mark half of the £20,000 they need to get this development finished. And within a couple of weeks, they've managed to raise the balance from family and friends. Paul and his team are back on board, and work on the project finally restarts. And at long last, they begin replacing the old shop front.
Found a few people who wanted to contribute to our cause. So yeah, we've got money together, and we started again to get the shop front up and running. Just back here and to see something more happening. I think that what we've done now is good, really, because you know we've got the most expensive thing out of the way, and now it's downhill from now on. So we've got to find less and less money as we go on, haven't we? So
they've now got an extra £20,000 to finish the development, but I still don't think it will be enough. Mark is back on site labouring, and despite everything that's happened, he's still convinced that they can turn this project around and prove everyone wrong.
people that have been in the trade for a long time have looked at it and said, we wouldn't have took the job on. Never mind as a first project. If someone told me not to do something, I've got to do it, just to prove them wrong.
But there's a long way to go. Apart from replacing the shop front, they need to excavate and damp-proof the floors, plaster the whole of the property, fit the kitchen, and there's the second fix electrics, plumbing and carpentry to be done. What's more, they've missed their June deadline to target the student buy-to-let investment market. So they're going to have to work even harder to make this property sell. As always, that means getting those finishes right. The key to getting the finish right for a buy-to-let investor is that it's got to look smart but be durable as well. Grout always ends up going mouldy, so the less grout you have, the better.
Yeah.
These bigger tiles are a better solution. In the 19th boom, lots of people transferred their savings and pensions into buy-to-let properties. So the market got pretty flooded. But there will always be a demand for the right property that stands up to the competition. New purpose-built student residences in the city centre offer a high standard of accommodation with all the mod cons. To make your property attractive to the buy-to-let student market, the finishes have to look smart, but they've got to stand up to punishment. It's a good idea to keep colours to a minimum because that makes it easier to redecorate. And as a general rule, the kitchen should be simple and light-coloured with a modern design that's easy to maintain and keep clean. Stainless steel sinks make sense, they're practical, hard-wearing, and they look good. And splashbacks for the sink and cooking area will prevent the walls getting stained and grubby. When it comes to bathroom suites, white is your best option. And remember, to satisfy building regulations and get accreditation with the universities, student accommodation must have locks on all the windows and have fire doors with glass panels. The market you're trying to appeal to is getting more and more difficult month by month. We're past June, so you're limited on choices now, and somehow you've got to make your property stand out from the crowd. And the ultimate finish is to put the tenants in before somebody buys it and sell it as a going concern, as a business.
As a short hold.
So it's already got an income stream.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It will entice somebody more quickly into the property, won't it, as well?
Yeah.
All they've basically got to do is sign a couple of things, haven't they?
Yeah. And actually, you're then packaging up a ready-made investment for somebody without any of the hassle. And that's really what an investor wants. They want no hassle.
Yeah.
The only thing is, you've got to make sure that the figures stack up. You've got to make sure the return on their investment makes sense. Back on site, the property's really taking shape, and more than 3 months into this development, the finishing trades have moved in. The old TV shop is gone, and downstairs is beginning to feel like a proper living space. The old floors in the kitchen and living room are being excavated, damp-proofed, and the new concrete floors laid. This is the last big job of the development, and once it's set, it'll be time to fit the kitchen.
We've put 2 doors on these units here, just so the units appear to be bigger than they really are.
Okay, yeah. Superb. I quite like that one, but again, we're going to lose a bit of space by doing that, aren't we, in the cupboards?
You're going to lose cupboard space, but then you're going to gain your worktop space.
That might have to be the option then, I suppose. Because that is the only surface that we've got in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Mark and Tracy have decided to contain the kitchen in the back extension, which makes the reception rooms more versatile, as one of them can be used as a bedroom. But they've gone over budget again, splashing out £3,000 on the kitchen, twice what they'd allowed in their budget. I think a less expensive one would have been much more appropriate for the buy-to-let student market. Upstairs, the loft conversion is almost finished and ready for decoration. On the first floor, they fitted the new bathroom, and I'm glad to see they've gone for a simple white suite. The site is crawling with tradesmen trying hard to get this project finished. But they're into July, and Mark's original schedule is just a distant memory.
I've lost count, to be honest, how long it's been going on for. I don't even know how long it's been going on for. Like I say, we're just waiting on 1 or 2 things now. Things like the kitchen. We should be fitted by the middle of next week. Just the finishing touches, really. I would say 3 weeks maximum. Just got to get rid of this one, get this finished painted and on the market, and hopefully sold very quickly, and move on to another one. I think this is like the worst of the worst properties that anyone could ever get involved in, to be honest with you, but like I say, we've done it and we're nearly at the end of it now, so I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest with you. You know, we've come through it when a lot of people said, oh, don't touch it, it's too hard, it's too much. You know, and we've come through it, we're at the end nearly. So, all them people who said you couldn't do it, or you won't be able to do it, I'll let you know when the cheque drops.
After buying an old shop in Nottingham last February, Tracy Newcombe and Mark Clifford are close to finishing. But turning this development around has been a huge struggle. It's almost August and they're still working flat out to finish.
It's non-stop really, it's just the final bits into it, making sure everything's just ready, you know, to get people in and dressing it and getting the decorating finished off.
It's the last bit that's the hardest, even with lots of resistance.
Just a matter now of, you know, completing the room, because now we want to do that room and then get everything out of there into here.
This renovation was a massive risk for first-time developers, but Mark and Tracy ignored everyone's advice and pushed ahead with the project anyway.
You look at things and you just think it's going to be very easy, and you know, it's been a roller coaster, I suppose, but it's been our first project, and I think you can't judge anything halfway through. You get to the end and then you have a look how you've done.
5 months after they started the renovation, it's finally finished. The old shop front is gone, and in its place there's a new residential facade. Inside, the conversion has been really successful, and the old TV shop has been transformed into a nice, comfortable living space. Gosh, this is fantastic. What a difference. Like, considering this used to be the shop.
Yeah, it's actually worked out to where it looks bigger than it actually did as a shop.
It's very nicely converted, actually. Most of the money was spent in this area, wasn't it?
Yeah, the majority of the money from the downstairs was here, obviously with the shop front and...
It's about 4,000.
Yeah.
The builders have done a great job with this conversion, and the rear of the property, which was in a very poor state, is unrecognisable. But I'm not sure Mark and Tracy have presented the property in the very best way. Although downstairs looks lovely, they still haven't embraced who is most likely to buy this property. I think while this is effective as a dining room, in terms of who your market is, which is highly likely to be an investor, you need to show that this room can be an eating area and a sitting room, because then that frees up the sitting room to be a 5th bedroom. And the problem with having such a big table and chairs and the sideboard and the table in the corner is it does limit its use. At the moment, I don't think this is believable as the only living space.
The reason why we've dressed it this way as well is because we wanted to appeal also if a family came in, you know, so they could see it is a 4-bedroomed house.
The point of dressing is about presenting the property to the right market in the right way. On the first floor, the dingy old room at the front of the house is now a bright, airy bedroom. At the rear of the property, the small box room is adequate and the bathroom is simple and effective. The other big job on this development was the loft conversion. This has worked out really well, and creating an extra bedroom up here will add value to the property. The house looks great, but it's cost a lot more than Mark and Tracy anticipated. Mark and Tracy allowed £10,300 for the building work and labour, but they spent nearly 3 times that amount at £27,202. £1,800 for materials, which more than tripled to £5,723. £1,900 for the bathroom and kitchen, but they spent more than twice that at £4,300. £1,000 for flooring and decoration ended up costing £1,308. They allowed nothing for fees, which added more than £5,000. Bringing the total spend on the project to £43,618. Do you know how much you spent?
Probably about 35-ish.
£44,000 in the end. I'm not really surprised it ended up at that figure. I have to say, I think a budget of £15,000 was absolutely, completely unrealistic.
Benefit of hindsight, I think you're right. I remember coming in here and saying, oh yes, it cost X amount for a kitchen, X amount for a bathroom, and £15,000 should do it. And I do remember Mark saying to at the time, I don't think so. But I was kind of like, yes.
I think she talked me around, and I really believed it in the end. But
no, I would never listen to me ever again. Yeah.
I gave her one chance.
Yeah.
So Mark and Tracy bought the property for £58,500. They spent £38,533 on the renovation. Their fees bring this up to £43,618. If they sell the property for £110,000, they'll make a profit of £7,882 for 5 months' work. But Mark and Tracy believe that they have improved the property so much, it should be worth more than their original £110,000 asking price. Let's hope the agents agree.
That's a nice start, anyway, nice and light and airy.
First impressions are good. Neutral decoration, not going to offend anybody.
Quite compact, but it serves its purpose.
If you knock on the head, get out of bed, mind you.
Very easy on the eye.
Very modern, fully fitted, built-in appliances. It's what they want. I'll be a bit concerned about a young family using the upper floor here. There's a combination of, you know, things to attract the family market and things to attract the investor. You know, the fire doors, the door closers, the individual locks on the doors, for instance, clearly aimed at the investor market. But the way the property is presented, it seems as though they're trying to attract the family market. It's almost as if the vendor's hedging his bets. One restricting factor may be the current time of year, which possibly would exclude the investment market.
I expect it to achieve a minimum of 115,000.
My valuation in its current condition would be approximately £120,000. I think the property is worth around £120,000.
We have actually had 3 agents in to value it, and one came in at 115. 2 of them came in at 120,000. So actually, if you sold it for the upper end, 120, that would give you an £18,000 profit, which is a pretty good return on the amount you've invested. After the last few months, this is great news for Mark and Tracy. And to try to recoup some of their extra spending, they decide to put the property on the market for £5,000 more than the highest valuation, hoping that the right buyer will pay a premium for their property.
It's very nice.
Lounge area.
It's okay. A bit small.
That's fantastic, and it's a good size as well.
Yeah, I like this room a lot.
Actually, I think for a small kitchen, it's actually got quite good storage space. Oh, the kitchen's a bit small.
Decent space, but could even look at one of those rooms could be another bedroom.
It is a nice size.
Kitchen is finished well. Small, but good standard.
I think all the doors have got these locks on as well, so that's handy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Fits in with regulations for letting it out, doesn't it?
They are steep, aren't they? Are you okay going down them?
Yeah.
With you and your sister running down the stairs, that's what I'm worried about. 4 bedrooms, aren't they?
Yeah, it's 4 bedrooms.
So that's quite good for a rental potential. The bedroom is ideal for the girls upstairs. It's just the stairs that going up. They are very, very steep, and it would cause me a lot of worry.
Yeah, overall very impressed with it. Very good.
Unfortunately for Mark and Tracy, none of the buyers were willing to put an offer in on the property. If you could turn the clock back, would you do it again?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, this was a big one to do.
It was too big, there was too many things to be done.
And not enough know-how, do you think?
Not enough know-how, yeah, definitely, and it all comes down to know-how, yeah.
When I first met you, this was going to be a new career. Is that still the case?
I think the turnover, it takes too long for it to be a career for myself.
A lot of first-time developers are amazed by how long it takes from project to project.
Until you do it, you don't really know. I mean, we've put such a lot of money into this, everything really, and we've not had an offer on the property as yet, but from when we get an offer, I think it's going to be 3 months. They say it's around 3 months before everything's completed, so that's 3 months till we can find a property, maybe another 3 months to complete on the next property. You're talking into the middle of next year.
It looks like developing may not be the new career Mark was hoping for. Trying to turn a difficult development around for just £15,000 was a dangerous thing to do. But after struggling for 5 months and spending nearly 3 times more than they budgeted, they've come out the other side and the property looks great. The big problem is that with all the delays in closing down the site, they've missed the peak time for the student buy-to-let investment market. 3 months later, and they haven't had any offers. Meanwhile, they're still paying out on the mortgage. Next week, I'm in Hastings in this stunning Georgian farmhouse. There's £750,000 at stake, and tensions are running high.
I wouldn't buy a listed house again.
Really?
I don't know, I think I would.
I wouldn't. Not if you were talking about big development. I think it's just not worth the hassle.
The question is, will anyone pay what they're asking?